42. Now we're going to do something a little unusual here. We have some special guests, particularly Christian Cadieux from the Crime and Trauma Scene Cleaners. Hey, Christian.
Hello, John.
You and I are going to talk. Patrick over there is going to do the operating as usual.
Yeah. Here we go.
Billy and Ryan will be showing Brokeback Mountain in a room just down the hall, because that's more to their taste.
Okay.
And they just find this stuff a little offensive. So
Not offensive, queasy.
okay, go.
Queasy, I'll go with.
Yeah, no.
It could be over the top at times.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You're Winston Wolfe. You're the cleaner.
I am Winston Wolfe. I'm here to solve problems.
And you do solve problems. Okay, so the first question that many people have asked me when we said you were coming on is, how do you get into a business like this? You clean up crime scenes, some pretty nasty.
Absolutely.
How'd you do it?
Well, just to talk a little more on that. Not just crime scenes, trauma scenes as well, involving human decomposition, accidents, and whatnot. But essentially, how I got into this industry was while I was living in the United States. Just a combination of work experience with hazardous materials such as radiation decontamination, airborne pathogens, bloodborne pathogens, experience with asbestos removal. Billy's moving away from me right here. I'm not toxic, I can assure you.
Okay.
Do you have to get tested for the toxins?
On occasion, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we certainly have, everyone goes through a physical at least minimum once a year. But there's a lot that's involved in getting involved with this, and not just the training, but a lot has to do with the psychological aspect. Everything's part and parcel. Separating yourself from what we do at work is extremely important. If there's been a tragedy, especially when children are involved.
And I'll tell you what, that is the only one I think most people would have a very difficult time with. We're joking about this. Anything to do with kids is obviously a different story altogether.
Sure.
That's got to be tough.
It's extremely tough, and a huge part of this as well, with myself and my crew, what we do is we need to decompress after a job. Often at times, I take everybody out after a job for one drink, and we talk about it. And I'm a firm believer that nobody should keep this bottled up, and we should all have to discuss what we've seen or what has transpired, or in order for us to deal with it. So no one on my crew or no one in my company goes postal.
Yeah, no, you don't need that for sure. I guess it's overlooked when you think about it. I mean, CSI, one of the biggest shows on TV, with all its various permutations. Now you've got shows like Law and Order that don't necessarily get graphic, but we're talking dead bodies, and very few people, I guess, would have actually seen one in real life. And I guess we forget that after the police go in and do their job, whether it ends up being an accident or a homicide or suicide or whatever the case may be, somebody has to go in and clean it up.
Absolutely, and not just that. People should not be expected. God forbid a family loses their child to a suicide. That family should not be expected to go in there and clean up the mess. I mean, that's just horrific. I mean, it's a tragedy that this has happened, but let alone they should never be expected to go in there and take care of this mess. I mean, we're all trained in proper decontamination procedures. We provide everything from disinfection to deodorizing to the cleanup to it's a little more than Molly made, just to everybody out there. I mean, it's it's a lot of people. Yeah. A lot of people are under the impression that we're just your basic residential cleaners. It's far more than that, far more in depth. And having a strong stomach and being of the utmost lucid level is extremely important as well.
So no drinking before work.
Absolutely.
John mentioned, Christian, the CSI and those kind of shows, that they tend to make these things somewhat romantic, and so an awful lot of people go, that's something I'd like to do. But I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that romanticism would come out of it if it was smell-o-vision. I'm thinking the one thing we don't see in all this stuff is how this stuff smells, and that's got to be gruesome.
You're absolutely right, Bill. Just to talk a little more on that, as far as CSI is concerned, and all the Hollywood shows, I mean, it's great for publicity. It brings a lot of public awareness to my industry. But the fact of the matter is that Hollywood sensationalizes everything. What we do is the absolute worst job known to humanity, and I challenge anyone to call me up and tell me they have a worse job. I mean, everything from picking up human intestines to feces to bodily fluids. I mean, if you can think of anything that's worse than that, then certainly call me up. I'd be very much interested in talking to you.
The end, I guess, particularly the traumatic end of a human life, and the period shortly after that, there's some pretty gruesome stuff that happens to the body, correct?
Yeah. There's, Unfortunately, the world we live in is it's not the nicest place. At one point in my life, I certainly believed in that evil was a theory, and I can only assure you that after being in this industry for approximately 5 years, evil is no longer theory. It's a reality.
You see things that are that disgusting, do you?
We see things graphic, non-graphic. I mean, yeah, we see a lot of things that would really question the human level and the humanity in itself. I mean, from example, some cases, some really bizarre cases that I worked on certain job sites down in the United States. Just to give you a general idea, it was very similar to the Amityville massacre down in Texas, not too far away from Tyler. While I was residing there at one point, there was an individual who, a young lady who had come into some money. She won a lottery ticket, and she went home and was extremely ecstatic, I guess, and told everyone that she had come into a huge sum of money. What had happened from there was, I guess her brother wasn't content with the amount of money that he was going to be given by his sister. So what happened was, in the early hours in the morning, he pumped shotgun style and real loser and scumbag.
The whole family?
Yeah, he got everybody, and they were there for a long time with no air conditioning, no air circulation. I would say approximately 6 to 8 weeks.
Ooh.
And you're talking about 4 decomposing bodies, and that was probably one of the first jobs I'd ever done now in my earlier career. That I will admit, I'm man enough to admit that I did vomit. Yeah,
Sure.
I mean that.
Yeah.
I'm
Now,
thinking of it just as a story.
Is there anything that the rest of us have smelled that could even remotely compare to it?
There is, and I'm here to tell everyone in Toronto that there is nothing that is worse than the smell of a decomposing body. No skunk, no baby's diaper, no Dutch oven, no nothing.
Wait a second. I gotta do that one. My wife is going to come in here.
Maybe if you put all those together.
Yeah, what's the machine you brought with you? She's got one of those.
Oh, this is just to show you a little bit of our equipment here. This is a Thermal Gen Junior. This is a petroleum-based deodorizing machine. It's
Looks like it's from Ghostbusters.
yeah, it certainly does. It's extremely effective. We use it for deodorizing everything from ethnic cooking, if it's I told you no more men in the house! I tell you, Christian! Get over here!
Not when I had a mouthful of coffee. I got a buddy in Malton who could use your services. Okay, so it does work on ethnic cooking.
It works on ethnic cooking when it's permeated the physical structure of an apartment or a condominium to a house that's recently been skunked, to the end-all, be-all, top of the food chain, the human decomp smell, and that's extremely effective. We have different techniques that we use, from this particular thermal generator here, this thermal deodorizing machine, to ultra-low volume fogging machines, to ozone generators. I have thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of equipment that I've invested in this particular industry, and
Now, is business good?
business is good.
Really? So there's no shortage of work?
There's no shortage of work.
How many jobs can you do? Because you mentioned the psychological impact of these things, and you got to kind of get yourself re-energized.
Mm-hmm.
Can you work every day? Is it once a week? How often do you do it?
Well, if business certainly was Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, I think this would not be Toronto. This would be Los Angeles. But we're averaging approximately 2 to 3 jobs a week, and those jobs could be anywhere from 8 hours to upwards of 40 or 60 hours, depending on the circumstances and everything that is involved.
Ooh.
Christian Cadieux is with us. Christian runs Crime and Trauma Scene Cleaners, and that is exactly what the name implies, a company that cleans up after, I guess sometimes run-of-the-mill events and sometimes extremely traumatic and very ugly ones. Again, to go back to the smell briefly, urban legend or not, a car has a decomposing body in it It's there for a certain period of time. The urban legend is you will never, ever get that smell out. True or false?
Absolutely 100% false. I challenge anybody in Toronto to call me with the absolute worst smell, and we all back up our work. I can get any odor out of anything. I can assure you that I think you're referring to the segment on Mythbusters.
Yep, that's correct.
Mythbusters did that. They I mean, with all due respect to them, they certainly did a good job on the Corvette. I think there was a pig that was in there in the farm. Yeah, they didn't have the equipment that I have or that I have access to, and they certainly didn't apply it in the way that it should be. So, but as far as that's concerned, yeah, any type of smell can come out of anything. You just have to know, the proper procedures and everything that is part and parcel with odor remediation and whatnot.
So I get it's to the point where something horrific happens in, say, an apartment, and there's blood everywhere, there's guts everywhere, it's nasty, it stinks, the bodies have been there forever. When you leave, is it like nobody's ever been in that room before?
Absolutely. What we do is as over the top, and as this may sound, but we erase the traces, we erase the footsteps of the angel of death. There is no way that you can tell that we were there. We erase any trace of DNA. In fact, I have a DNA eraser here.
Nice, I could use that.
Yeah, just don't tell Tony Soprano.
Morning.
I had a paternity suit I could A little dabble, do ya? So you go. So when you're done, you can actually erase all the DNA, everything.
We can erase any trace of DNA. After we are finished, there is no way in God's green earth that you can tell that we were there. It's like it never happened.
What about the cost? Obviously, somebody's got to pay for this. And again, as Bill said, the sort of the romantic nature. We see it on TV, and it's all great. Everybody does their job. They catch the killer. Everybody moves on. But one thing that you wouldn't think of automatically is, okay, this is going to cost money. You have all this high-tech equipment, whether it be an apartment or a house, and to put it back into that pristine condition, somebody's got to foot the bill here.
Of course. And what normally happens under normal circumstances after there's been a tragedy, whether it being crime or trauma, whichever the case may be, property management, that being either the superintendent, property manager, or landlord, homeowner, they incur the cost to us, and then they would hence submit the bill to their insurance company for compensation. The majority of our services are covered through insurance companies. Some insurance companies may not cover our services. I have yet to encounter that. But for the most part, depending on what name perils your policy has, if you have all-inclusive, then certainly it's covered. But property management, for the most part, whether it being a apartment building or condominium, they do have an obligation by law to cover and incur these types of expenses.
And in a case where it's an apartment, or particularly an apartment, they want to be able to rent it out. The last thing they want is any evidence that something awful happened in there.
Absolutely, and we're certainly in the process right now with certain lobbyists in order to make this particular channel of trade licensed here in the province of Ontario. The state of New York, actually New York has just recently licensed it, as well as the state of California, where you require a specific certification by that particular state in order to practice and execute these types of services. There's nothing stopping anyone from right now from going and sucking up bodily fluids from carpet and pouring it down the sewer. In fact, we encounter this all the time, and myself and my colleagues, we rat them out. We inform the Ministry of the Environment and let them know that there are people out there who are not complying with certain guidelines, rules, and regulations that have been set in place, as well as the Ministry of Labor. And these people they're destroying what we're trying to build and the type of public awareness that we're bringing to this particular industry.
How many people do this, and how far afield do you go?
Well, we cover, I have people that I'm associated with that represent us in other parts of Canada, but we do cover all of Ontario, myself and our technicians. Yeah.
Now, how many competitors do you have? How many other people do it?
As far as competition is concerned, there are a few players here in Toronto, and they're friendly competitors. I have nothing but the highest regard for them. They know who they are. But there are people out there who don't know what they're doing. For example, as I told you, I mean, we're not equivalent, same level as your basic janitorial service or Molly Maid. We're far superior. But there are people out there who would pick up a hypodermic needle from a heroin addict that has decomposed or OD'd and would take it and throw it in the regular garbage. And it's so easy to catch any strain of hepatitis because body fluids that are exposed to the air have the ability to hold strains of hepatitis for up to 2 months at 25 degrees Celsius. So, for example, if your car gets broken into, someone smashes the window, the perpetrator, he boosts your car, or carjacking takes place. If he bleeds in the car, if he bleeds in your vehicle, all it takes is 1 drop of blood to get into your vent. If that blood dries in the vent, the next time you turn on your blower, a dry flake of blood will be blown out into the interior of the car, and God forbid it should land in your or one of your family members or children, whatnot, passengers, in one of their mucous membranes, which is the eyes, nose, or mouth. If that happens, then you will have contracted any form of hep that is positive in that particular blood. This is why after a tragedy, after someone has broken into a car, it's so imperative that you have your car properly decontaminated by a company such as ours.
I never would have thought of that.
And it's an overlooked issue.
Yeah, I bet it is. Christian Cadieux is with us from Crime and Trauma Scene Cleaners, and that is what they do. They clean up after nasty stuff happens. We've touched on a lot of stuff here and a lot of fascinating stuff. The one thing that I would like to ask you before we let you go, Christian, is first of all the question. Is everything, as far as the bodies themselves, out before you go in? And with that in mind, if that is the case, and I believe it is, have you ever found yourself in a position where you find something that may be very relevant to a case, particularly if it's a homicide?
Absolutely. Everyone's human, and forensics certainly, they make their mistakes at times. There have been occasions where we have found gun casings, bullet casings, pieces of evidence that we would think that are certainly evident and important to the case. We stop everything that we're doing at that point. We contact the local law enforcement. They come by and they obtain the evidence from us. And as far as the bodies are concerned, 99% of the time the bodies are out of there before we proceed. There have been occasion where we have beaten EMS and law enforcement. Certain information that comes to us through certain sources.
I'm sure you have that. Sure.
Yes, we have that as well. They let us know that something has gone down, and we have been present where the body has still been in there.
So when you go in, is it the full-on nuclear suit?
It's the full-on hazmat nuclear suit, everything from biosuit to, we have some stuff here I can show you.
Oh, nice helmet.
That is, that's actually a full-face respirator mask.
Yeah. That's very cool. Well, Christian, it's been a pleasure, buddy. Thank you
so much. Thank you so much, John.
I certainly hope none of us ever need your services.
Yeah, I don't want to see you professionally.
Let's just strictly keep this social.
You don't really want to see me. I'm the last person you want to see.
No, I would certainly think. I'm fascinated with this stuff. Billy, maybe not so much.
No, it's
Kid,
interesting.
definitely
It is
not so much. But I'd like to come up with you one time, just to see.
John, it would be an honor for us to have you right along. It's,
No, you'll get over that quickly.
Oh, yeah. I'm surprised you haven't already. Christian, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
3 minutes before 9, Christian Cadieux from Crime and Trauma Scene Cleaners. Like us, I hope you never need to see him professionally. Let's get Q107 traffic. Here's the kid.
It is 8:59 and 3 degrees in Toronto. Looks like we have those long-term problems still in the majors. With a further look at the details. And Chopper 640, here's Heather Vigna.
That's great, Christian.
Beautiful.
Thank you very, very much.
That was awesome. That was
very, very
that was
good.
Thanks a lot, John.
No,
Thank you
thanks,
very
man.
much.
Thank you.